The entire globe has been on edge for weeks now, pondering a crucial question. Is there a new war on the horizon or not? And yes, we are talking about Niger. Until recently, this place was practically flying under the radar. Let's be honest, could you confidently pinpoint it on a map? Well, here it is, nestled right in the heart of West Africa. Niger has taken center stage this summer, making headlines that can't be ignored. And this is the reason behind this sudden surge of attention. Meet Bazoum Tchiani, a formidable general who's boldly taken the stage. He's making an audacious declaration, right here and now, asserting his authority as the new leader of Niger. Yes, you heard that right. On the very 26th of July, a seismic coup shook the foundation of the nation. President Bazoum has been confined at home ever since. Much to the dismay of his Western allies and the course of the country, there are troops at the borders and a military intervention is imminent. Huge international interests are at stake, making why the world's gaze is unwaveringly fixed upon this nation. Niger looks like a ticking powder keg. Only the fuse has not yet been lit. In this video, we will be unveiling the layers. What defines Niger? What is going on there? And what are other countries actually doing there? This is why Niger has the world on high alert. Just a brief introduction. Niger holds its place among the world's most impoverished nations. It's a youth-dominated population where a staggering 2/3 are under the age of 35. For most of them, there are limited prospects for a brighter future. But this youthful energy aches for transformation. It's this fervor that propelled Tchiani with his aspirations to orchestrate a coup powered by the winds of support. But don't mistake this for a one-sided story. President Bazoum has his supporters too, setting the stage for a country teetering on the brink of tension. Now let's talk geography. Niger, much like its neighbor Nigeria, derives its name from the river Niger. The capital, Niamey, graces the river's banks in the heart of the Sahel, that swath of land between the unforgiving Sahara and the lush tropics. And above all, a true zone of conflict. Since 2020, coups have painted this Sahel region, each with their own story, yet bound by striking similarities. It's a tale woven with threads of insecurity, the specter of terror, and the knotted web of socio-economic strife in a country that knows the harsh touch of poverty. What's unfolding in Niger echoes what we've witnessed with soldiers taking the reins in Mali and Burkina Faso. Western troops are also still present in neighboring country Chad. Yet within the Sahel, Niger holds, or perhaps held, the title of the prime ally. A prime ally since it played a pivotal role in the global battle against terror. Against the jihadist forces associated with IS and Al-Qaeda. That's one of the reasons the world is on high alert now. The West wants its ally back. Deposed President Bazoum now resides in his presidential residence, being a captive in his own home. Concerns swirl around his well-being, and he's raised his voice from his confinement, sharing, "I write this as a hostage. My country is under attack. Democracy has been overthrown." This message was addressed to the American newspaper, The Washington Post. It's his calculated move to rally his allies across the seas. But in the coup plotters narrative, these Western powers, with France at the helm, just failed to keep the country safe. France would mainly be interested in Niger's treasure trove of raw materials, particularly uranium. A whopping quarter of the EU's uranium supply hailed from Niger, with France as the prime beneficiary. Uranium is a cornerstone for nuclear energy, on which France largely thrives. France and West Africa, including Niger, share a long history. France used to be a colonial superpower. It controlled around 15 countries in Africa. While the colonial era has long passed, France's influence lingers, politically and economically. This history mirrors the Sahel, where Niger and Mali find their place. Amidst this backdrop, a dance unfolds. Terrorist organizations flex their might, and migrants traverse this land in hopes of reaching Europe. France, with its vested interest, stations soldiers in the region, striving to quell these disturbances. But those soldiers had to leave Mali earlier. And the rulers in Niger also have expressed having a mixed sentiment about the French presence. This anti-French sentiment has consequences not only for the fight against terror. It may also drive the coup plotters into the hands of a new ally, Russia. Russia, with the Wagner Group, a Russian mercenary army, is very active in Africa. And just to be clear, Wagner does not officially operate under the Russian flag. Research points to Wagner's footprints being traced across multiple African countries. And the underlying thought in these countries? Doubts about the French being able to guarantee their safety. It's like a high-stakes gamble. Should they place their bets on the Russians? In any case, the Russians are doing everything they can to convince the Nigerian population that they are better off with them. They even are going all out on social media campaigns. It is no coincidence that Russian flags are cropping up at protests. And yes, those flags are calculated moves. They are not there by chance. It is an excellent opportunity for Russia to make new friends and increase their political influence. It's a masterstroke to beef up political sway, especially considering Russia's soured relationships post-Ukraine. And then those raw materials. Russia has its eye on those too. Despite Wagner's notorious track record of human rights abuses and civilian casualties, the West African fight against terrorism seems to be placing more trust in this unapologetic mercenary group than in Western troops. So you can imagine, the West watches tensely. But that's not the only hurdle. There is something else: migration. Niger serves as a bustling junction for African migrants with their sights set on European shores. It's a hotspot along a well-traveled human smuggling route. In fact, it even earned the moniker the southern border of Europe, given that other routes to Europe were cut off. And let migration be a major European headache. In collaboration with President Bazoum and his predecessor, the European Union invested hundreds of millions to stop migration from Niger. Every week, about 4,000 migrants left for Libya, and part of those traveled further to Europe. Under pressure from the European Union, the vehicles that are used are being confiscated. With the hope, of course, that this will put an end to the smuggling for good. As the new regime seeks to sever ties with the West, there is a good chance that those once muted smugglers might also find their voice again. And if the storm of war truly brews on the horizon, the refugee numbers will, of course, skyrocket at an alarming pace. So let's sum it all up. The West is in danger of losing its last ally in the fight against terror. French historical ties with West Africa are under great pressure. Major economic interests are at stake. Think of all that uranium, and Russia is ready to fill that gap. And then there is also the threat of a new migration crisis. So yes, Niger has the world on high alert. Conclusion is, Niger is kind of a final domino in a series of coups in that region, and the West wants to keep it as an ally at all costs. The predictions are uncertain. We just pray and hope it will not come to war. But at least, now you know what is going on.